Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Anda bersama saya Nabilah Khaleeda dan ini Niaga AWANI dan Antara Fokus dan Tumpuan hari ini adalah berkenaan dengan RUU Perolehan Kerajaan 2025 yang baru dibentangkan semalam. Namun saya akan bukakan Niaga AWANI dengan perkembangan ini terlebih dahulu, iaitu Satu Creative Services Sdn Bhd dengan kerjasama Yayasan Hasanah melancarkan inisiatif National Creative Sprint dan perusahaan sosial Hasanah HSEF 2025 yang bertujuan memperkasa perusahaan sosial di Malaysia menerusi peruntukan geran berjumlah RM1 juta. Program ini menyasarkan penggiat perubahan di wilayah tengah dan utara negara dengan fokus kepada 4 tema utama, iaitu alam sekitar, seni dan ruang awam, pendidikan dan pembangunan komuniti.
Ketua Pegawai Eksekutif Satu Creative Ahmad Azwar Zainuddin berkata, inisiatif ini dibangunkan bagi mewujudkan ekosistem sokongan yang membolehkan perusahaan sosial memperluas impak mereka. Katanya, perusahaan sosial membuktikan bahawa perniagaan boleh menjadi pemangkin kebaikan, mencipta peluang, memperkukuh komuniti dan melindungi alam sekitar. Namun, tiada penggiat perubahan yang berjaya bersendirian. Creative Sprint HSEF 2025 menawarkan akses kepada mentor berpengalaman, rangkaian pelabur dan pemimpin ekosistem selain latihan intensif dan program pembangunan kapasiti yang berterusan. Ketua Perusahaan Sosial Yayasan Hasanah Stanley Siva berkata, dana ini mencerminkan komitmen yayasan dalam menyokong pembangunan yang inklusif dan mampan. Jelasnya, dengan melabur dalam perjalanan mereka, ia cerminan kepada pelaburan untuk Malaysia yang lebih inklusif, berdaya tahan dan lestari. Permohonan untuk program ini dibuka dari 20 Ogos hingga 20 September. Bootcamp Impak Wilayah Tengah Kuala Lumpur akan berlangsung pada 7 hingga 8 Oktober diikuti hari demo pada 9 Oktober. Bootcamp Wilayah Utara Pulau Pinang pula dijadualkan pada 14 hingga 15 Oktober dengan hari demo pada 16 Oktober. Perusahaan sosial yang beroperasi di wilayah-wilayah ini digalakkan untuk menyertai dan memanfaatkan peluang ini bagi memperkukuh kapasiti, memperluas inisiatif dan menyumbang kepada pembangunan Malaysia yang lebih mampan dan inklusif. Maklumat lanjut boleh didapati di www.satucreative.com.
Berang Undang-Undang RUU Perolehan Kerajaan 2025 yang baru dibentangkan di Dewan Rakyat menjanjikan satu anjangkan besar dalam cara kerajaan mengurus perolehan awam. Dengan fokus kepada integriti, ketulusan dan kebertanggungjawaban, ia dilihat sebagai usaha memperkukuh tadbir urus serta memerangi rasuah dalam sistem perolehan negara. Namun, di sebalik janji reformasi ini, timbul persoalan penting. Sejauh mana RUU ini benar-benar mampu menutup ruang salah guna kuasa, melindungi persaingan sihat dan memberi peluang sama rata kepada semua pemain industri termasuk PKS dan juga syarikat tempatan. Jadi hari ini kita bersama Fellow Kanan Institut Demokrasi dan Hal Ehwal Ekonomi Ideas Sri Muniati Yusof untuk kita meneliti secara kritikal kandungan RUU ini termasuk kuasa yang diberikan kepada ketua setiausaha perbendaharaan, keberkesanan mekanisme semak dan imbang serta potensi impaknya terhadap landscape perolehan negara. Assalamualaikum Puan. Selamat pagi.
Waalaikumsalam, selamat pagi.
Okey, Puan sekini berada dalam talian bersama dengan saya, Sri Muniati. Mungkin kalau kita nak buka perbincangan, kita lihat RUU ini memberi kuasa besar kepada ketua setiausaha perbendaharaan dan juga selaku pegawai pengawal. Jadi adakah mekanisme semak dan imbang yang digariskan ini cukup kuat untuk kita elakkan salah guna kuasa dalam perolehan kerajaan ataupun bagaimana?
Betul. So, RUU memberi kuasa kepada perbendaharaan untuk mentadbir, menyelia dan mengawal semua perkara yang berhubungan dengan akta ini. Termasuk dalam bidang tanggungjawab ini ialah melantik pendaftar serta memastikan tahap pematuhan terhadap pembentukan akta. Tapi ada satu kuasa yang agak membimbangkan bagi saya ialah memberi kuasa penyiasatan yang terlalu besar yang diberikan kepada pegawai yang diberi kuasa oleh perbendaharaan. Termasuk kuasa untuk menyiasat dan merampas dokumen tanpa waran. So di UK pun sama, dia baru pass Procurement Act tahun 2023. Ada unit semacam ini yang boleh menyiasat, tetapi selain menerima siasat, dia juga boleh menerima aduan, mengeluarkan saranan, tetapi unit ini mesti menerbitkan laporan penyiasatan kepada masyarakat awam untuk memastikan akauntabiliti. Sebaliknya dalam RUU Perolehan yang sekarang ini tidak ada provision semacam itu yang boleh menjadikan satu semak imbang kepada kuasa ketua setiausaha perbendaharaan.
Puan, ini bukan perkara yang baru. Usaha mencegah rasuah ini sudah kita lakukan sejak sekian lama lagi. Tapi dengan kewajipan pendaftaran, sejauh mana RUU ini sebenarnya benar-benar membuka peluang sama rata kepada PKS dan juga syarikat tempatan, atau adakah ia sebenarnya berisiko menambah birokrasi dan juga mengekang persaingan sebenarnya?
Pada saya tak jelas lagi bagaimana registrar yang baru ini akan berkait hubung dengan pendaftaran yang ada sekarang. Sekarang ini kontraktor perlu memohon sijil perolehan kerja daripada CIDB, kemudian pembekal juga perlu berdaftar dengan Kementerian Keuangan, ada lagi sijil kontraktor Bumi Putra. So macam mana registration ini, pendaftaran yang baru ini berkait hubung dengan pendaftaran yang ada? So, adakah menambahkan birokrasi seperti yang tadi disebut atau memudahkan proses pendaftaran? Lagi satu, ada peruntukan dalam Section 18 yang memberi kuasa kepada pendaftar untuk mengenakan apa-apa syarat ke atas pendaftaran. Ini bagi saya kuasa yang terlalu besar dan berpotensi menjejaskan akses, khususnya bagi pembekal atau kontraktor kecil.
Dan kalau kita lihat, walaupun RUU ini menekankan integriti dan juga pada masa sama dia mencegah rasuah, mungkin kalau Puan Sri boleh kongsikan apa sebenarnya ia menggunakan instrumen yang lebih berkesan daripada undang-undang yang sedia ada pada waktu ini, ataupun ia sekadar menggandakan peruntukan tanpa keberkesanan praktikal?
Betul, ada beberapa peruntukan yang memang khas untuk perolehan. Yang penting, yang saya kira penting dalam proses perolehan kita adalah ada satu Section 38 yang melarang campur tangan dalam proses perolehan, termasuk apa-apa campur tangan yang boleh menjejaskan pematuhan terhadap proses RUU. Kemudian juga ada mewajibkan mana-mana individu yang mengurus perolehan kerajaan untuk mendedahkan konflik of interest, termasuk ahli dan chairman tribunal. So ini memang khas untuk perolehan dan cukup bagus, tetapi ada beberapa hal yang boleh, saya kira satu missing point adalah ketelusan. Ketelusan penting untuk memastikan integriti dan mengurangkan rasuah. Prinsip ini tidak tercermin secara baik dalam RUU yang sekarang. Malah saya Google, perkataan telus ini hanya disebut sekali saja dalam keseluruhan teks RUU. Ini menimbulkan persoalan sama ada kerajaan benar-benar memberi penekanan yang sewajarnya. Part 5 yang sepatutnya menjelaskan secara rinci metode procurement misalnya kurang, sama sekali tidak ada perkataan transparency dan publishing information to public. So I think this is a missing opportunity that should have been addressed in this act.
Kita masih lagi di peringkat awal, masih lagi di peringkat perbincangan dan akan dibahaskan mungkin esok atau lusa dan akan dibentangkan pada minggu depan. Jadi kalau kita ambil yang terakhir, isu terakhir berkenaan dengan amalan tipuan bidar yang sering berlaku dalam tender kerajaan. Jadi adakah peruntukan dalam RUU ini boleh mampu menutup ruang manipulasi kartel ataupun masih bergantung kepada keberkesanan penguatkuasaan Akta Persaingan 2010, Puan Sri?
Tidak peruntukan khusus untuk bid rigging dan memang amalannya pun seperti itu. Biasanya undang-undang perolehan tidak ada peruntukan khusus untuk bid rigging, tetapi mungkin salah satu tujuan pendaftaran perolehan kerajaan adalah untuk minimumkan isu ini. So kita lihat nanti kalau ada registration yang jelas dan semua registration proses mainstream, mungkin bid rigging ini boleh dikurangkan sedikit.
Dan mungkin kita tahu ini adalah usaha kerajaan untuk meningkatkan ketelusan, untuk mengelakkan ketirisan, untuk orang kata mengurangkan rasuah itu. Jadi apakah RUU ini mampu memberi jaminan bahawa ia akan meningkatkan persaingan sihat dan juga menarik lebih banyak syarikat berkualiti dan bukan sebaliknya nak menimbulkan monopoli baru ataupun melindungi pemain tertentu. Jadi bagaimana kita nak pastikan ia betul-betul berkesan?
Saya harap begitu. Tadi saya sebutkan dalam registrations of contractors, ada beberapa peruntukan yang terlalu memberikan kuasa yang terlalu besar kepada register. Tetapi secara amnya, RUU ini saya kira menghantar mesej yang bercampur kepada pihak-pihak berkepentingan. Di satu pihak yang menunjukkan komitmen lebih tinggi terhadap integriti, seperti yang disebutkan tadi di atas. Tapi juga, dan skop RUU kelihatan lebih luas, misalnya tarif perolehan kerajaan merangkumi apa-apa perolehan yang sepenuhnya atau sebahagiannya dibiayai oleh kerajaan. Ini maknanya kalau dalam pandangan saya boleh juga termasuk projek-projek kerjasama awam swasta. Tetapi RUU pada saat yang sama juga memberi keleluasaan bagi kerajaan untuk mengecualikan perolehan beberapa entiti. Section 2.2 misalnya menyebutkan pengecualian. Lagi satu, menteri pun masih diberi kuasa untuk menentukan kaedah perolehan. Dalam kes perolehan kecemasan misalnya Section 30 masih memberi menteri kuasa untuk menentukan kaedah perolehan. Sepatutnya dalam kes urgency, biasanya kita menggunakan direct negotiation, sepatutnya akta menetapkan prinsip bahawa bila kaedah kompetitif tidak digunakan, alasan mesti didedahkan dan alasan tersebut mesti publik. Bukan memberikan menteri kuasa untuk menentukan kaedah perolehan. So, saya bercadang RUU ini disemak semula dan diperhalusi di tingkat jawatan kuasa khas parlimen sebelum dibentangkan untuk bacaan kali kedua pada hari Rabu. Mungkin boleh ditunda dulu untuk diperhalusi di tingkat jawatan kuasa khas parlimen.
Jadi pada pendapat Puan Sri, bagaimana kita nak mengukur kejayaan RUU ini selepas ia dibentangkan? Adakah ia perlu membuat laporan tahunan perolehan kepada Parlimen ataupun apakah best practices ataupun amalan terbaik yang boleh kita belajar sebagai contoh yang boleh kita saksikan yang dilaksanakan di United Kingdom? Apa yang kita boleh belajar dari sana?
Ada beberapa institusi yang nampaknya akan dibentuk melalui RUU ini. Yang pertama tadi registrar akan di bawah Treasury. Kemudian ada lagi kalau ada unit khas untuk investigation pun ada di bawah Treasury. Di UK unit ini ada di bawah Cabinet Office. So dia tak di bawah Treasury, dia lain. Kemudian ada lagi satu lagi yang penting juga adalah tribunal. So ada beberapa badan baru yang akan ditubuhkan di bawah akta ini. So kita lihat dulu dan mungkin badan-badan ini perlu mengeluarkan laporan kepada orang awam. Terutamanya saya kira praktik procurement review unit di UK boleh ditambahkan ke dalam RUU kita. Sebab sekarang ni kuasa tersebut terlalu besar dalam pandangan saya dan tidak ada semak imbang yang jelas di situ yang boleh demand these officers to be accountable to the public.
Kita ada lebih kurang 1 minit. Mungkin soalan terakhir kalau saya boleh ajukan kepada Puan Sri, adakah Puan Sri setuju jika kerajaan benar-benar serius dengan ketulusan, adakah wajar kerajaan membiarkan media ataupun rakyat akses kepada database untuk semua kontrak kerajaan ataupun termasuk ini nilai projek juga, adakah itu wajar dilaksanakan?
Wajar dan sebetulnya sekarang pun sudah ada melalui myprocurement.my. Tetapi untuk beberapa perolehan semacam direct negotiation dia kadang-kadang kurang up to date. Tapi sebetulnya publik boleh mengakses maklumat mengenai procurement dalam myprocurement.treasury.my. So boleh. Tapi sekarang ini tidak diwajibkan dalam akta. So agak susah sikit. Negara-negara lain menetapkan ini sebagai salah satu kewajipan dalam akta. So any government procurement act will demand that. So I think that's a minimum requirement that should be in the procurement act that we have now.
Okey, apapun kita masih di peringkat perbahasan oleh Dewan Rakyat yang akan dibentangkan nanti pada minggu depan insya-Allah. Jadi terima kasih diucapkan kepada Fellow Kanan Institut Demokrasi dan Hal Ehwal Ekonomi Ideas Sri Muniati Yusof dan segalanya akan kami rangkumkan dalam semua platform digital Astro Awani dan juga astroawani.com. Baik, sekarang kita akan berhenti rehat seketika. Kita kembali selepas ini bersama dengan Termina Kausci.
Tok Aman dah makbul. Abang nak keluar dari sini kan?
Dah cari bilik sewa kan? Ni rumah saya.
Jangan sentuh adik aku! Dia pergi mana?
Ada nampak tak dua orang budak ni? Ni, saya cari dua orang budak ni. Tak ada sini lah.
Awak mau ambil jadi anak ya, tapi awak kena masuk Islam. Ha? Uncle Mike.
Ini pertama kali saya raya tak ada adik-adik. Tu
Tuhan tak bagi apa yang kita nak. Dia bagi apa yang kita perlu. Uncle Mike buat saya percaya yang ada lagi orang baik dekat dunia ni.
Hello and welcome to Niaga Spotlight with me, Tamina Kausji. Niaga Spotlight takes us through the week in economic analysis and future affairs. Now, this week on Future Affairs, we spotlight the topic of Gig Workers Bill and protecting livelihoods. Now, Malaysia's Gig Workers Bill, years in the making, was supposed to hit Parliament last week, but was postponed yet again. Meanwhile, the Human Resources Minister insists it will still be tabled this August. Meanwhile, the stake is no small number. An estimated 1.12 million Malaysians earn through e-hailing, food delivery, freelance and care work spread across 200 plus platforms. 40% of these are aged between 25 to 34 and nearly 80% are over the age of 25. The Gig Workers Bill aims to define who counts as a gig worker, set out SOCSO social protection contributions, and also establish a long overdue appeals mechanism. But tensions do remain. How do you guarantee fair pay without crippling platform margins? How do you spread SOCSO or even future EPF contributions across workers who multi-app? And what teeth will enforcement have when so many operators are foreign incorporated? Today, we're joined by leaders from the worker, research, creative and caregiving fronts to ask, will this bill truly balance flexibility with dignity, or will another delay leave gig workers in limbo yet again? Joining me online now for this urgent discussion are Dr. Asha Rathina Pandi, Head of Research and Lead Analyst with North-South Initiative. Joining us in a while as well will be Vishwano Varthan Pulainthrun, Secretary General for the Malaysia E-Hailing and Delivery Organisation, MIDO, as well as the Secretariat for Gabungan E-Hailing Malaysia, GEM. Datuk Freddy Fernandez joining us in a tick as well, President with the Malaysian Artists Association, Karyawan, and Nurul Ezati Muhammad Nasir, CEO and co-founder of Teman Malaysia. A very good morning to everyone. Thank you so much for taking time to join us. How's everybody doing?
Good, thank you.
Wonderful. Dr. Asha, if I may begin by setting the scene with you, looking at scopes and definitions. Now, if the bill says it covers e-hailing, p-hailing, freelancers, what precise legal tests should define a platform worker in Malaysia? This is especially for people who multi-app or mixed employment and freelance work, which is indeed quite common, yes?
Thank you, Astro, AWANI, for having me here. The relationship, I think, between gig workers and platform owners should be seen as equivalent to the traditional employer-employee relationship. What does that mean? So as long as the worker taps on the digital platform to engage in work, the law should kick in. Because the new type of work involves both the platform and non-platform work, the law should be equitable and fair. And the bill should also consolidate the needs of the workers, platform owners, and the state as regulators. There must be ownership of responsibilities. For example, in the traditional context, there is a collective agreement and laws such as the Industrial Relations Code. So I think for a start, the Consultative Council and Tribunal seems like a good start to bringing the stakeholders together. And we hope as a labor rights organization that the laws and standards should not be lower than what the current work-related laws are.
Yes, that's an excellent starting point, of course. And of course, definitions also drive who gets protections, SOCSO, EPF access, dispute rights as well. What do you feel ought to be in the definition to avoid potential loopholes, Dr. Asha?
The definition should include any individuals who earns income via the digital platform or non-platform, regardless of whether it's their primary or secondary source of livelihood. Secondly, I think the workers who operate across multiple platforms should also be taken into consideration. Workers who combine employment and freelance work. But there's also another category that seem to be missing from all of these discussions. It's the remote workers, those workers that do provide services either locally or abroad. I think that is also another category that should be taken into consideration. Overall, I think the new type of work must be inclusive for everyone. The law should be inclusive for everyone. The bill should strengthen existing association or labor categories. For example, journalism has its own union, right? So a journalist, for example, who's independent and do not belong to a union must be covered by the gig workers bill instead. So the bill must have the same degree of protection as the same Industrial Relations Act or the collective agreement, in other words.
Thank you for emphasizing that. Now, moving on to Vishnavartan, representing MIDO and GEM. Let's talk about pay floor and commissions. Now, what specific minimum earnings model would GEM accept? Let's look at per hour, per task, and what is a fair maximum commission for platforms today, in GEM's opinion?
Hi, good morning, everyone. So, from GEM perspective, we highlight 4 critical areas that must be addressed to ensure that the law provides real protections, fair standards, and structural solutions for the nation's 1.2 million gig workers. So, for the pay floor, for e-hailing services, a clear benchmark is already exists, which is it's regulated since 12 October 2019 under the Land Public Transport Act 2010. And in fact, the taxi fare structure gazetted in 2015 sets rates at RM1 25 cents per kilometer and 46 cents per minute. So we propose from GM itself that the fare structure be used as a pay floor for e-hailing with annual adjustment. So it can't be one-time solution. It's been have to be revised annually based on the inflation and current operating costs, because the inflation and the operating costs, it's changed very rapidly in this current situations, which is for the operating costs, it must consist of fuel, maintenance, insurance, and other costs that the e-hailing driver itself. So this approach is practical because we already have a guideline for the passenger transport services. So when we are adopting this as a foundation for e-hailing, makes sense as the services is not only better, more efficient and safer, but also leverage modern technology at the fingertips of consumers. For the part of commissions, GM insists that the 20% maximum cap as stipulated under the APAD itself must be reinstated and strictly enforced. This is a problem whenever there is a platform that going beyond than the 20% that APAD is stipulated under the Act itself. So this has to be done under the law, current law, and it should involve in the new Act itself.
Thank you, Mr. V. So, of course, clearly GM's rationales are sound, but enforcement is where it will really show whether or not it will be workable for the e-hailing industry. Dr. Freddie, good morning. Let's move into talking about creative gigs under the bill. Now, performers are often paid via royalties, buyouts, not per hour. What sort of clauses perhaps would protect creative freelancers without undermining royalty as we understand it now?
Well, this is actually the whole emphasis on the gig bill, I think, or this gig economy has been on more on the e-hailing and e-hailing industry. I think we have been engaged, we have had very little engagement on the creative industry. Actually, I have minimal knowledge about the gig bill, gig workers bill, and I only got whatever little information I had from Dr. Asha actually yesterday in a chat that we had, and also from speaking to you, Samina. But I think the creative industry is also fraught with a lot of issues. I think many of you have heard of the royalties issues that we've been facing for many, many years now, more than 2 decades, where there's a lot of royalties being paid by people, but there's a lot of people who are entitled to get these royalties who are not getting it. So I've been trying to resolve this issue, and even the government has been very sympathetic in actually coming up with guidelines and stuff like that. But we have some collecting bodies who are quite adamant about doing it their way, and have actually taken the government to court to actually curb the guidelines provided by the government. So we're in a very problematic situation with artists, composers, and many of them are not aware of their rights. We've been trying to tell the Communication Ministry to allow us to have some orientation courses for new singers, new artists. And so far, we've been waiting for a while, but no action has been forthcoming. So I think this is something that this gig workers bill, I mean, the word gig itself is a very musical term. I mean,
absolutely.
That's where you go and do your gig, you know. Where's your gig tonight, you know, that kind of thing. So the fact that gig is being used here, I think it shows the relevance of what our industry has to go through. I mean, we have musicians performing in clubs on a nightly basis, once a week, and they go into the club or the pub, and they play there for 3 hours, and then they get 200 ringgit. So, you know, it's all very non-technology based, unlike the e-hailing business where you can actually book someone online and you pay online and so on. Whereas in this case, it's more the old system of, you know, here's 200 cash for your performance tonight, you know. Thank you, and I'll see you again next week. So this is the kind of industry. There's a lot of artists also doing shows, not getting paid. We have an actor that came up a couple of weeks ago saying that he was owed some money by the production house that shot his drama, and he acted in it a couple of years ago and still hasn't been paid. So these are the issues that, you know, and I'm sure there's a lot of other areas in the industry, the film workers, many of them are getting paid late. You know, they're supposed to get, according to their agreements, they're supposed to get their payments in 7 days after the final shoot, whereas sometimes those are dragged for months and they don't get their pay. And these are B40 employees who survive on gigs. I mean, they survive on freelance work as film workers, film directors, and also film crew and DOPs, cameramen. So it's a whole part of our industry that hasn't been looked at very clearly, very obviously, and also which we would like to get involved in a bit more, and also get to know what the gig workers bill actually entails for our side of the industry, as opposed to the purely e-hailing and the delivery services that are going on. So it's something that, for me, it's an eye-opener. And I also spoke to the president of the Film Workers Association yesterday, and he said that, we should take up this issue with the HR ministry, as well as all the other parties. I think communications should be involved, and maybe some domestic trade officials as well, because they actually oversee a lot of the things in our industry. Communications takes care of the media, and domestic trade takes care of the royalties. and they are the ones who've been helping us a lot by putting up the guidelines. But unfortunately, we're all being dragged to court. Even I am now facing a lawsuit for what I said about these royalties, a couple of lawsuits actually. So it's quite a fraught with a lot of conflict and very depressing situation in our industry, which hopefully the authorities will take cognizance of and help us to resolve a lot of these issues. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you for the insights, Dr. Freddy. It's very important, of course, that creatives also potentially will be included under the bill since, as you mentioned, gig work, the very terminology itself actually comes from the creative arts, right? We could think of many minimum standards which might be applicable, such as kill fees, late payment penalties, so that particularly our creative freelancers are not shortchanged either. Thank you. Azati, moving into the work that you do via Teman Malaysia, let's look at protection priorities in caregiving gigs. Tell us what matters the most for those who work under the Teman Malaysia platform. They're known as Temanians. Tell us a little more.
Yes, thank you, Tamina. So our Temanians, for caregiving gigs, right? The two most urgent protections that we see is that insurance coverage and also appeal rights. So unlike delivery or ride hailing, our work happens in the client's houses. It's very private, it's very secluded, often with elderly and vulnerable people. So that creates a unique risk, I would say. So for example, if an elderly client falls down while walking to the bathroom, even the Temanian has followed all safety steps, the family might still blame the worker. So without insurance, both sides will feel quite exposed, you see, because family fear the financial liability and also workers fear unfair insurance and punishment. So that's why a client-backed insurance model is essential. So at minimum, I do feel all platform providers should provide baseline coverage and families should have the option to top up for more protection. And also the second urgent protection is appeal rights. Care work involves human beings, right? And misunderstanding can happen. So a Temanian can be deactivated or like maybe blacklisted from the platform just based on a single complaint that might not even be verified. Even us as a platform provider, we do see this issue as well. So sometimes because the services happens in the clients' houses, there might not be any witnesses to any accidents. So we do have to have something to protect the caregiving gig workers as well. So I do feel like the bill should require a fair and transparent process before any disciplinary action, so workers can have the right to explain and defend themselves. On the other hand, since our clients are elderly people, it can be quite a problem for us to provide an insurance coverage for them. So looking into this as well, I think the insurance providers can be included into the discussion while tabling the gig worker bill, so it can help provide sufficient protection for all parties involved. So to us, minimum earnings are also important, but I think since it is a very delicate balance between the gig workers getting paid fairly and also the families are also already struggling with affordability. So at this stage, the most important things are insurance coverage and the appeal process.
Indeed. Thank you for very clearly explaining that. Now, of course, just to also clarify, Temanians are freelance care companions. Typical rates reportedly anywhere between 13 ringgit to 17 ringgit per hour, as well as training being absolutely mandatory. Thank you all for the insights. And so far, we take a quick brief break and we'll be right back with the rest of the interview on Niaga Spotlight.
Jom, ayuh bersama raikan semangat inilah kita.
Malaysia Timur,
Astro berbangga mempersembahkan pelbagai kisah hebat yang menggambarkan siapa kita.
Untuk kita saling membantu.
Apa yang membuatkan kita tersenyum.
大家一起 sing along. Boleh ke duduk bawah?
Lantaran keunikan kita. Seiring persembahan yang menyentuh hati kita. Pelanggan Astro, terokai lebih banyak lagi tentang kita di saluran 100.
Winner never quit and quitter never win.
Pelbagai filem, lebih drama.
It's love. Love. You takkan happy. Hari-hari dia buat you nangis.
Untuk semua peringkat umur.
他可以接受. I rasa macam sekolah balik. It's a Malaysian thing. I highly recommend.
Stream bila-bila masa, apa jua cara. Inilah kita. Eksklusif di Astro.
When the superpowers move, the ground shifts. Power isn't just about might anymore. It's about narratives, networks, negotiation. We go beyond the noise to deliver laser-focused analysis on how power moves and what it means for the world. This is AWANI International, reporting the shifts in power affairs shaping the world.
Perusahaan kecil dan sederhana, impian besar. Jiwa SME Astro AWANI kembali menjelajah Malaysia. Dari Ipoh ke Kota Kinabalu, dari Melaka ke Lembah Kelang. Sesi pitching, pameran produk dan dialog bersama pemimpin industri serantau. Dapatkan inspirasi, ilmu dan peluang untuk kembangkan perniagaan anda semuanya di bawah satu bumbung. Kerana inilah medan impak sebenar. Jiwa SME menjana impak inovasi digital.
Welcome back to Niaga Spotlight, still with me, Tamina Kausji. And today, of course, we're covering the upcoming gig workers bill, but looking at protecting livelihoods with a panel of guests. Now, Dr. Asha, moving into further talking about due processes for deactivations, what would a fair, fast deactivation appeal system look like when it comes to perspectives from NSI?
Okay, just talking to some of the gig workers in our research. So we do understand that, you know, the biggest pain points for gig workers, it's often, it's sudden, it's opaque and without recourse. So a fair system should include notice and reasons. That's the first thing. Workers must be informed of the grounds for deactivation in writing. Secondly, it's access to evidence. Workers should be given the chance to review the data, complaints or customer reports that triggered the action. Thirdly, it's the timeline. Appeals must be resolved within a reasonable period to avoid prolonged lost income. And fourthly, there should be an independent review. So appeals should not be decided solely by the platform owners, but an independent committee should oversee the matter and try to resolve it as soon as possible.
Absolutely, expediting it for everyone involved currently. And of course, the government is currently exploring a formal deactivation appeals mechanism. Moving forward from there, Mr. V. Vishwanathan, may I ask you about deactivation appeals to an end-to-end perspective? Perhaps walk us through the ideal process from suspension notice to final decision. Where do you feel an independent body could be sitting, and what's a final turnaround time that would be acceptable to GEM?
Okay. For the account suspension and the deactivation, remain the single biggest risk for the gig workers, who can lose their livelihood overnight without due process. So we propose there's a three-tier appeal mechanism, which is there should be include internal review, and the second is independent panel, and the third is the final is tribunal decision, which is the first one. The platform must firstly notify the worker with the reason and allow a quick review. It doesn't happen right now, which is it will be informed, but what is happened is doesn't been reported to the gig worker. So this have to be done and have to be two-way communication between the gig worker and the platform itself. And the second one is the independent panel, which is an impartial body, which is included the worker representative, the legal experts, and the regulators have to hear what happened in between the services being done. And it will be a good way, which is will be in solving the problem, rather than we are suspending the account directly without doing a good, proper discussion between the gig workers, platform, and the customer itself. And the final one, the tribunal decision, a final binding rule, which is enforceable under the statute within a fixed timeline, which is, we are proposing that if it's a very heavy cases, it should be taken 1 week's time to solve it, because the gig workers earning per daily, they didn't have a monthly income. So whenever they work, then only they can survive their life. So the crucial part is we have to, gig workers have to have a representative in the gig worker, such as we are allowed to bring a union or association to represent and legal counselor or translator to the digital or in-person hearing. So this has to be done. There should be a representative to make sure assist the gig worker itself in the hearing itself. So to protect livelihoods, GM proposed that for every day of wrongful deactivation, the worker must be compensated at least 50% of their income, because it will cover their daily basic necessities whenever the deactivation is happened. So it's ensure also that platform cannot misuse or abuse for the reason deactivation as a disciplinary shortcut without any accountability. So this is what we want. We want to make sure that platform have to be responsible also on the cases that happen in between services being provided by the gig workers and the platform to the customer.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Mr. V, for actually emphasizing that we need to normalize due processes taking their course. Moving along from there, Dr. Freddy, for Karyawan's perspective, let's look at transparency when it comes to fees and payments. Let's say once we have more of the creative freelancers who are as part of platform gigs, should artists also have a legal right to platform data which is available so that they can audit what kind of payouts that they are getting?
Exactly. A lot of the royalty payouts are shrouded in, in conflict and lack of transparency. So I think there has to be a much more transparent method of using technology to actually embark on these royalty collection mechanisms, as well as distributing the money back to the right owners. We have too many bodies right now. We have 5 different collecting bodies going around asking people to pay for music that they use in public. And part of the government's thrust right now is to get a single body to do the collection and the distribution using technology. There's a lot of music identification software that can be employed, whereby the whole process could be streamlined into a technological system where the wherever the songs are played, whether it's on the radio or in a club or in a restaurant or in a hotel, immediately the songs are identified and put into a system where the royalties are then credited to the people who own the song. So we have a long way to go in that. And the first step is to get the 5 bodies to toe the line, which the government has been trying to do, but now we are looking at delays because they have brought the matter to court. And of course, that obviously, as everyone knows, takes a while. So in terms of developing the use of technology, I think the e-hailing guys are way ahead of us. They're using technology almost on a daily basis, and a lot of their employment comes through their phones and through online payments. And it's heartening to see that Rizva and his team are actively pursuing protection of gig workers' rights. And we'd like to see the same thing happening for the creative industry, because somehow or other we've been left out of the conversation, and a lot of the focus has been, obviously they have a lot more pressing issues. They're faced with, a lot of abuse and also lack of protection on their part with no SOCSO, EPF or anything like that. But similarly, we are in the same boat. Artists have no EPF, they have no SOCSO. Finance and the communication ministry have been trying to put together some system, but I think we need the HR ministry to really take a leading role in this. And I'm just hoping that we will be involved in this whole movement moving forward, so that we can then actively put in place protection for the workers in the creative industry, so that their welfare is well protected, their rights are taken care of, and they get due remuneration for the work that they do. A lot of the workers now, especially film workers, are paid very little, 150 ringgit per day, so, and some of this has to be reviewed. So if we have this bill, I think there will be a lot more respect given to the people who actually have these skills, the talent, and they will be able to make a better living for themselves, and also ensure that they get their payments on time. A lot of times they pay, but it's very, very late. Payments are delayed, and it's not nice to have some payment delayed because you're waiting for that payment to pay your rent. So it's a fractious industry. It needs a lot of work. We need the government to get together all the ministries that are relevant. In this case, the HR ministry could take the lead, and I'm sure it will turn into something that's really of value and will actually augur well for the future of the industry, where people will be more keen on joining the industry and taking up work. I mean, when you're musical talents, and you have musical talent, it'll be a shame if you go and work in a bank or somewhere else because the industry doesn't support the talent. So this is what we are facing here. There's a lot of good talent out there, but there's just not enough support, not enough protection, not enough security, and not enough of long-term financial benefits for people who want to take up vacations in the creative arts industry. So this covers the entire gamut of the industry, from music to film to composing, script writing, film working, actors, and so on. So we are looking forward to hopefully some good things from the bill, and hopefully that it will mean a brighter future for everyone. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. Tailoring it for creatives is also just as important. Azati, moving along into looking at safety as well as quality baselines. Do you feel that the bill should perhaps mandate maybe background checks, minimum training hours, and incident reporting specifically for care-related platforms? At the same time, what would be over-regulation?
Yeah, so definitely in caregiving, trust and safety are non-negotiable, right, Tamina? So when families open their homes and allow someone to come to care for their parents, they want assurance that these people are trusted, they are safe, and also accountable. So at Taman, we already practice some background checks, basic training in elderly care, and also incident reporting system. So I believe this should be minimum standards across the service providers, across the industry. Like for example, every platform should at least verify the caregiver's background, their experiences, and we also require a baseline number of training hours, let's say 10 to 20 hours. We know that they have gone through this training and they are capable of handling a client per se. So we also have a clear way to log and address incidents reports. For example, if there were any accidents, any falls or anything that happens. So I do feel like these are not big items that we are asking for service providers, and these are essential for service platforms to build from the get-go, to build trust as well. But like you said, over-regulation is a problem as well. So if the bill requires the service provider for every caregivers, they have, for example, nursing certificate. So this would cost a lot for the service providers, for the caregivers as well. And this would most probably reduce supply and making care not affordable for many people out there. So what Taman is working on right now is to provide affordable care and to provide job opportunities for as many people as possible. So if we were to provide such a high certification in order for somebody to be a professional caregiver, that would push people back to doing informal care and unregulated care, which is even riskier. So I would recommend the bill to set practical safety baseline at least, which is a compulsory background checks, a minimum but achievable level of training, and a clear reporting system. So we make sure that all parties are covered, the clients, the elderly, and also the caregivers. So this should be enough as a starting point to ensure safety without duplicating what agencies like JKM or the Health Ministry is already overseeing.
Absolutely, Kara. Clearly, there's a need for those minimum standards. Now, as we move towards closing out the discussion, Dr. Asha, I'd like to ask a little about portable social protection and how should contributions to SOCSO and retirement savings be split among perhaps worker platform, and especially when income is actually spread across several apps, which is actually rather common, particularly for the e-hailing and p-hailing industry.
Yeah, so in terms of contributions, I think it should be based on every trip or every task should have a percentage deduction. So for example, if the contribution rate is 1 ringgit and 1.25%, then the shared rate should be between the workers and the platform owners. Also, and in that sense, I think it should also take into account of, like the other government subsidies, right? And for those workers who use multiple apps, the bill should create a mechanism for prorated contributions based on earnings from each platform. And finally, I think it's the so then then the question is then who is monitoring, who is taking care of other central, so a central system in that sense, like perhaps managed by SOCSO or EPF, can consolidate these contributions from all platforms into a worker's single account, perhaps having an ID or so on. So I think I mean, those are something that we kind of thought through, but I'm sure you know there will be details as well, and that is something that we are looking forward to. Yeah.
And perhaps additionally, if you could add about how the gig workers bill could potentially balance flexibility with meaningful labor protections as a final closing word from NSI's side to emphasize.
Okay, so the bill should avoid a one-size-fits-all approach. So instead, it can tie to the core protections like algorithmic transparency and fair appeal process to all gig work. So then it can layer on stronger benefits like minimum earnings specifically for those under the heaviest algorithmic control, right? So by employing targeted approach, it helps for the most vulnerable without sacrificing this flexibility that makes gig work attractive. So, and also I think in terms of balancing that flexibility and making sure there's meaningful labor protections, I think that one area that we see lacking in terms of research is the occupational safety and health. So I think the Ministry of Health should conduct a comprehensive research on the health of workers and how to reduce the fatigue of workers. There must be a system designed in the app to shut down after a certain legal hours to ensure the safety and protection of the workers. So our research has actually found that, you know, fatigue, lack of rest, sleep as the main contributors to accident. So I think DOSH must ensure prompts are built into the app to protect workers' health and safety. Thank you, Tamina.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Dr. Asha, Mr. V, Dr. Freddy, as well as Asati for this very insightful conversation. Now, what we've heard today is clear. Malaysia's gig economy is no longer a side hustle. It is the backbone of livelihoods for over 1 million people. The gig workers bill does promise clarity coming forth. But of course, as the bill moves forward, one question will define it. Is Malaysia legislating for short-term fixes or laying down the foundations for the future of work? Well, that's all we have time for today on Niaga Spotlight with me, Tamina Kausji. We'll see you all next week with more economic analysis and insights. Here's to a productive week ahead.